Hi, this is Rick Frederick reviewing the case of McDonald v. U.S. This is not a great case to review. It's not really clear what it contributes, but it is part of the case law in the D.C. experiment that started in 1952 with the Durham rule. And so here we are about 10 years into the Durham era. And there's a question about a case in which a defendant complained that the jury was not properly charged. And it's not easy to understand, excuse me, what the issues are here for us, but I'll let you decide. Here's a case in which somebody essentially had an IQ of 68 who was charged with second-degree murder for helping his employer shoot a victim. Part of the argument seemed to be that McDonald was subject to Davis's will, part of which had to do with an IQ of 68. Experts testified that because he had a mental defect, which was an IQ of 68, they stated that he would have less than the normal person's ability to tell right from wrong, would act impulsively, and would be influenced by Davis. The psychiatrist testified that the relationship between McDonald and Davis was to some extent a product, the Durham product test, of his mental deficiency. This was not persuasive testimony. McDonald was convicted of manslaughter. He appealed, saying that the court failed on a couple of procedural issues. One of which telling people that he wouldn't go free, but that he would be confined. And number two, that the court didn't actually say to the jury the alternative verdicts of not guilty by insanity. The appellate court in D.C. Agreed with these complaints. And the analysis on these evidentiary procedural rules was pretty straightforward. But more importantly, there was some discussion by the court here. They're frustrated by this use of Durham by doctors, and the doctors coming in and essentially saying, well, we've got his IQ, therefore he has a mental defect. They're not using the court's language. They're not using medical language to describe the defendant. They've read Durham, they know Durham, they've testified in the court before, and they're coming into court and they're using the court's language, disease or defect. And so here in McDonald, the important element is that the court says, look, it's for the jury alone to determine whether there is a disease or defect. And that the jury should be told that a mental disease or defect includes these abnormal conditions of mind that affect the elements that you're concerned with. But it's not for doctors to come in and say they have the legal definition of mental disease or defect. I'm not sure how important this case is, but it is a commonly referred to case in the great experiment by the D.C. appellate court in the 50s and 60s. Thank you.